Hi guys, so today I've got a baby shaker card to share with you, and it's a little bit of a long video, but there are a lot of techniques in this video, so stick with me. So first I've got some Tim Holtz Distress watercolor paper by Ranger, and I just used my powder tool because I want to emboss this stamped image of this little elephant, and the elephant is from the W+9 Unforgettable stamp set. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp that with VersaFine black onyx ink, and then I'm going to use my Ranger super fine, I think it's called super fine clear embossing powder, and then I'm just going to heat that with my heat tool real quick. And I want to emboss this because I'm going to be doing some watercoloring, and when you emboss the image, it kind of makes like a little pool to keep your ink inside, so it's easier not to go outside the lines. So I've got some tumbled glass distress ink, and I just put it on my mat, and I'm using the new Ken Oliver, I think it's called Best Ever Craft Mat, and it's an awesome craft mat. If you're if you're looking for a craft mat, this one is just great. It's kind of tacky, so things don't slip and slide around, and it's just great. I love it. So I've got my Ranger water brush, and I'm just kind of randomly scribbling on some of the tumbled glass distress ink, and I just want to make it look like a sky background, and I'm going to heat dry that real quick. And I'm spraying some water on my mat just to dilute the ink a little bit, and then I'm also going to spray my watercolor paper in just a few minutes, and you'll see that. Right now I've got some bundled sage distress ink, and I'm just using that to create like a grassy area, and it doesn't look so good right now, but I'm going to do something to the watercolor paper in a little bit that's going to distress it some, so it will look a little bit better. So first I'm going to zap it with my heat gun and dry it. And then I noticed that I missed some of the little white spots around the elephant, and so I just took a little Kuretake water brush, and I'm going around the elephant just to fill in the places that I missed. So I've got my little cutting board, and I'm going to use some frog tape here to tape it down, and I usually take the frog tape and like put it on my skin first so that it's not quite as sticky, because sometimes it will tear your paper if you don't do that. So that's what I was just doing, and I'm doing this because I'm going to wet it a lot and I really don't want it to move around. So I just pulled out my Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers, and I've just got a couple colors of gray and a light pink, and I'm going to go ahead and color in my little elephant. Now you can use water, you can wet the paper first if you want, and then use the real color, or the Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers, or you can use them with or without water. And as you can see, I'm going to go ahead and color them in without water, but then I'm going to add water after I add my darker colors just to blend it all out. So I've got that Kuretake water brush again, and I'm just blending it all out. And then I decided that my elephant was too light, so I'm going to go back in and add some darker color. But first I'm adding some pink into the little ears and the cheeks of the elephant, which you can barely see once I darken it up. I probably should have left it like this, but you know, I just couldn't leave well enough alone. I just had to keep messing with it, so I just thought it needed to be darker. So I went in with a darker gray, and that's what you just saw. And now I'm using my water brush to dilute it a little bit and just even it all out. And I love this little image of this elephant. It's so cute. I will list the colors of the Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers that I used in my description box. Everything that I use in this video will be, all the products will be listed in the description box. So if you see something you're interested in, take a look or visit my blog and you'll see everything. So now I am spritzing my whole panel with water, and that is going to react with the distress inks on the paper. And I've got a wet baby wipe, and I'm just going to pat the paper because it's going to like add texture to it, and it just kind of, I think it just looks really cool when you do that. So now I've got some Gina K Pure Luxury heavyweight paper or cardstock, and I've cut one sheet in half, and I'm just going to score that at 5.5. So it's a top folding card, 5.5 by 4.25, and that's going to be my card base. And if you haven't tried Gina K paper, it is so thick and so luxurious. You should really try it. It's an awesome cardstock. So I just pulled out my Lawn Fawn large stitched rectangle dies, and I'm going to go ahead and die cut my little scene here, and I'm using some post-it tape to hold my die in place, and I'm going to run that through my Vagabond. And you can't see that on camera because the Vagabond is behind me, but that's what I'm doing, is die cutting. So I'm going to pull that off, and then you can see the stitch detail around the panel, and I just think that adds a nice touch. So now I'm going to pull out a larger rectangle, and I'm going to cut a mat for my little panel there, and I'm going to use this polka dot paper. And this is from the Echo Park Birthday Wishes stamp or paper pad, not stamp set. And that's like a little girl birthday paper pad. And this card is for a new baby. My cousin had a baby, and her name is Caroline, and so I'm making this card for her. So now I've got the panel cut out, and I laid it up against there, and I realized that it just kind of blended into the background too much. So what I'm going to do is take my Tumble Glass Distress Ink and a Distress Ink tool, the mini blending tool, and I'm going to distress the edges a little bit with the ink. And as you can see, it's going to add a dark, like a little dark border around the edges, and that's going to make it stand out more against that background paper. And I think that just finishes it off a little bit and just looks nice. It gives it a more defined edge. So I'm using my Tombow stamp runner, and I'm just going to glue that down. And I'm using a whole lot of adhesive because it's watercolor paper, and also because it had warped when I was heat drying it. So now I'm pulling out my dies from Lawn Fawn, and they're called Party Balloons. And I've got this little heart balloon die that I'm going to use to cut out the shaker portion of my card. So I'm just putting that where I want it, and then I'm going to die cut through both layers of cardstock, the watercolor paper and the cardstock. And luckily the die cut through both fine without a problem. I'm going to save that piece, the die cut piece, because I'm going to use that as the background for my little shaker area. So now I'm getting some transparency, which is what I use for my shaker cards. And I just found a pack at the thrift store. You can find, every time I go to Goodwill, I see packs of transparency paper. And one time I picked up a pack and I used it for shakers, and that's just what I use. So I'm using my Tombow stamp runner to put some adhesive all the way around my little die cut balloon, and then I'm laying down my transparency piece. And I'm going to use my finger to burnish it just all the way around the die cut, so that it's stuck down there really well. And now I've got a little window, and you can't really see it because of the lighting, but I've got my foam tape now, and I'm going to create the well for my shaker. I put in a double, I didn't make you watch that, but I put in a double layer of foam tape on the back. Now I'm using some moonshine sequins from Simon Says Stamp. And then I'm also using some Martha Stewart iridescent glitter, is what they call it, and it's little hearts and little stars. So I'm using some green hearts, some blue stars, and then I'm also going to add some pink hearts. And this was a great deal, this this iridescent glitter. I don't know why they call it glitter, it's really like little sequins, but it's really cute. So now I'm going to peel off the back of my foam tape, and then I'm going to take a piece of scratch paper from my scraps bin, And I'm going to lay the die cut balloon piece on the back of it and then line it up, which you didn't really get to see that, but you can see the background is lined up perfectly. And then I'm going to add a double layer of foam tape to the back of this panel, all the way around that shaker portion so that it's even. I probably should have... Oh, I did. Okay, never mind. Okay, so I went ahead and put the double layer down and I'm peeling off the back. And then I'm going to stick it to my card front. And the main part of my card is done. Now I need to work on a sentiment for the front. And I am going to use Altenews Label Love stamp set. I've got a Copic multi-liner here, and I'm just coloring in the eyes of the elephant, and I'm also drawing a line like a balloon string to the elephant's tail. But I didn't like the way that that looked, so I'm going to go ahead and use some twine. And this is just some Maya Road pink baker's twine. And I'm tying a little bow. And then I'm going to use my Zig two-way glue pen and put some adhesive down and just stick that underneath the twine. And then I'll put my bow on there using a micro glue dot. The Zig two-way glue pen is really good for little things like this. So I had to get out my ribbon scissors because my other scissors wouldn't cut the twine. There we go. Now we have a little balloon string holding up the balloon, and it's tied to the elephant's little tail. So there's my glue dots, and I'm just going to stick the little bow on there, and then I can move on to the sentiment. I really do like the stamp set by Altenews. It's called Label Love. It's a great stamp set. It's got all kinds of sentiments, and I use it quite often. And it's made to look like a Dymo label maker, and you'll see that in just a second. I just think this card turned out really cute. So I'm going to pull out my dies, and I thought about using the congratulations die on the front of my card, but I decided against it. I cut it out of glitter paper, but it just, I don't know, it didn't work right. It didn't cut all the way through, and the congratulations die actually cuts the word into pieces, like a couple letters at a time. And I left this in here so that you could see that it didn't work out, and I ended up wanting to go with that stamp set that I keep talking about that I promise is coming up soon. I should have cut this out, but I really wanted you to see the part that didn't work as well. So I'm just trying to pull the word apart from the back paper, and it's not working real well. And I'm going to get frustrated in a minute and just give up on that idea. The paper just kept tearing. And the one thing I don't like about this die, it's a Paper Smooches die, I think, is that it cuts out the C-O-N and then the G-R separately, and then like it's just split up into different sections. And I like word dies that cut out the whole word at once, that's connected. So now I think is when I'm working on getting my stamp set out. I didn't do a great job of editing this part. So there's the stamp set, and now you can see all the sentiments. Well, you can't see it, but you can see how many there are, and it looks like a little label. And I'm going to use VersaFine Black Onyx ink again, and this is a pigment ink, and it's the crispest, cleanest stamp for sentiments, or not stamp, but ink. It's a really good ink. So I'm using my powder tool again just to make sure the embossing powder only sticks to where I want it to. And then I'm going to go ahead and ink up my stamp. And I'm stamping it off once because it was a new stamp. And then I'm going to use my Ranger Superfine embossing powder again. And then I'll heat that with my heat tool. I've had some questions about the heat tool that I use, and it's the Milwaukee brand. It also has been known as the Hero Arts brand, I think, but they're not selling it right now, and I'm not sure why. I got mine on Amazon, and I will link to it in case they do start selling it again, but I don't know why they're just not selling it right now. So I've cut out the little congrats, and I'm trying to figure out where to put it. I had a really hard time deciding where to put this, but I end up deciding to put it on the bottom. So I'm just going to add a little bit of adhesive with my Tombow stamp runner, and then I'm going to stick that down at the bottom underneath the elephant, and that will complete my card. Thank you so much for watching. As I mentioned before, all of the products that I used in this video will be linked and added to the description box, and it will also be listed on my blog, which is at www.kathleendriggers.com, along with some photos, close-up photos. So here's a close-up look, and have a great day, guys. I will see you next time. Bye.